The night was charged with the kind of energy that only late-night television could harness. Stephen Colbert, ever the charismatic host, walked out to thunderous applause from the audience, flashing his trademark grin. The band's jazzy theme faded just as he launched into his monologue. But the anticipation in the room wasn't for Colbert's jokes, it was for his guest that night. Harrison Ford ***. As the veteran actor stepped onto the stage, the applause doubled. People stood, cheering for the man who had once cracked a whip as Indiana Jones and piloted the Millennium Falcon as Han Solo. Ford gave a half-hearted wave and a faint smirk as he moved toward Colbert. His demeanor quiet but intense, as always. He wore his signature no-nonsense-style dark jeans, a tucked-in black shirt, sleeves rolled up and settled into the guest chair with the practiced ease of someone who had done this dance more times than he cared to count. Colbert opened with light banter. Ladies and gentlemen, we are graced by a legend. You know him from 1,000 blockbusters and 1,000 more memes. Harrison Ford, welcome. Ford chuckled, but it was brief, thanks. I guess, sensing the lukewarm mood, Colbert tried to warm things up. So Harrison, let me ask the burning question. How many times have you lost your hat while running from a boulder? The audience laughed. Ford gave a tight smile. Not as many times as I've lost patience in interviews. Like this? It was subtle, easy to miss if you weren't watching closely, but Colbert did notice. Still, he laughed it off. Assuming Ford was playing into his usual gruff persona, touché, he said, I suppose the boulder had it easier than I do. Ford nodded slowly. You could say that. Colbert moved into a clip from Ford's latest film, a grounded drama about environmental collapse and human resilience. But as soon as the clip ended, he pivoted back to nostalgia. So, tell me, when you put the fedora back on for the last Indiana Jones movie, did it feel like time travel, or just a really expensive costume party? Ford's expression changed. The joking tone vanished. You know, I've done a lot of work outside of that franchise, but every time I sit in this chair, it's like nothing else exists except the past. Colbert leaned back, surprised. Well, people love the past when it includes you, Harrison. You're part of the fabric of cinematic history. Ford's tone sharpened. That fabric doesn't need to be worn thin. There's more to an actor's life than playing dress-up for public memory. The audience quieted. Laughter faded. Colbert tried to recalibrate. I mean, you are doing important new work. But surely you understand people feel connected to those characters. You brought them to life. I brought me to those characters, Ford shot back. And I'm still here, doing work that matters. I'm not here to be a living Funko Pop. The air turned electric. Colbert chuckled nervously. All right, no more hat jokes. Let's get serious. You've been outspoken lately on climate policy. But hey, just between us, you still make the Chewbacca growl in private? The studio froze. Ford blinked. He didn't laugh. He slowly stood up, unhooking his microphone and placing it gently on the chair. This is what I'm talking about. Colbert raised a hand. Hey Harrison, I'm just trying to have fun. It's a late-night show. Ford's eyes were steady. Firm, then maybe have fun with someone else. He turned and walked off the set. The crowd gasped. No music played. Producers scrambled. Stephen Colbert sat frozen, staring at the empty seat across from him. The show went to a sudden, unscheduled commercial break. Backstage was in disarray. The crew was whispering into earpieces, eyes wide. Some speculated it was a PR stunt, others feared a breakdown. No one knew for sure. But what everyone agreed on was that it wasn't part of the script. Harrison Ford had stormed off The Late Show, and the fallout from the incident was immediate and deafening. Within minutes of Harrison Ford walking off the stage, #FordStormsOff and #ColbertClash were trending on X. TikTok clips were racking up millions of views, and armchair analysts were dissecting the tension from every conceivable angle. The leaked footage, raw, uncut, and explosive, painted a picture of two men locked in a very public collision of respect, ego, and miscommunication. Some blamed Ford, labeling him as thin-skinned, out of touch, and overly serious. Others rushed to defend him, arguing that he had every right to demand to be treated like a present-day artist rather than a walking relic of cinema. Colbert's own fanbase split down the middle, some called his jokes lazy and tone-deaf, others believed Ford had overreacted to harmless banter. Back at CBS headquarters, the show's producers scrambled to manage the PR firestorm. The segment had been recorded live to tape, which meant there was time to cut or reframe the footage. But the genie was already out of the bottle. Someone from the studio audience had uploaded a phone video, and it had already gone viral before the network could intervene. In the midst of the frenzy, Colbert retreated into his office. The gravity of the moment was hitting him harder than he expected. Despite his years of experience and his daily balancing act of satire, sincerity, and spectacle, this time he had crossed into uncomfortable territory. He hadn't meant to insult Ford, he had simply leaned into the formula that had made his show a hit. Keep it light, keep it funny, remind people why they loved the guest. But Ford had called his bluff. Later that evening, as public speculation reached fever pitch, Ford's publicist released a terse statement. Mr. Ford left the interview due to a lack of meaningful engagement. He has no further comment. It was short, deliberate, and carefully crafted. The message was clear: Ford wasn't interested in being a punchline. He had spoken with his feet and wouldn't be apologizing for it. The next evening, viewers tuned into The Late Show in record numbers, eager to see how Colbert would address the controversy. The show opened not with jokes, but with Colbert sitting at his desk in silence for a moment longer than usual. The audience hushed. I want to start tonight by talking about what happened last night, he said, his voice more grounded than usual. As you may have seen nor heard, Harrison Ford walked off this show, and it wasn't funny. It wasn't staged. It was real. He folded his hands, took a breath. In trying to be entertaining, I made the mistake of treating a legend like a mascot. I poked fun like I often do, but I didn't stop to ask myself what he might really want to say, what he came here to say. And for that, I'm sorry. The audience offered light applause, but it was a somber moment. Colbert looked genuinely remorseful. I grew up watching Harrison Ford. I admire him deeply, and while I thought I was celebrating him, I ended up reducing him. That's on me. His apology was sincere, and too many unexpected. It softened the blow for some fans and drew praise for its maturity. Others felt it still didn't excuse what had happened. But either way, the tide of public opinion slowly began to shift. Meanwhile, Harrison Ford kept a low profile. He didn't make any further statements, didn't tweet, didn't grant any new interviews. But a few days later, he appeared on a podcast hosted by longtime friend and co-star Mark Hamill. The episode, recorded in Ford's mountain cabin, was calm and unguarded. When Hamill asked him about the Colbert walkout, Ford's reply was measured. I didn't plan it, he said simply. I just got tired of playing a version of myself. For other people's amusement? I'm 82 years old, Mark. I've got more to offer than recycled punchlines. Hamill nodded. So, would you ever go back? Ford smiled faintly. Maybe, if it's a real conversation next time. A week later, without fanfare or press teasers, Ford walked back onto the Late Show stage. The audience gasped. Colbert stood from his chair, visibly surprised. The two men exchanged a quiet handshake. I came back, Ford said with a shrug. You asked me to talk? So let's talk. And they did. No hats, no Chewbacca jokes, no bolder references. Just two men sitting across from each other, discussing art, life, and the work still left to do. The audience listened, and this time, so did the world. Nothing would be the same afterward.